So let's see. On to the NBA and the Lakers. Let's see what's going on around the league. Kawhi seems to be out of the Spurs sooner or later. It's kind of a question of when, and how. If he goes this year, he's going to have to be traded because his contract's up at the end of next year. So if someone like the Lakers are going to make a grab for him, they're going to have to trade a bunch of assets to Popovich and the Spurs to get him on their roster. Now, there are reports that he won't be available to the Lakers. He might be available to other teams like, say, Boston 76ers because they're in the East. But the Lakers, as of right now, don't seem to be an option because of Popovich. He does not believe in helping in interconference rivals, especially the Lakers. He has a special kind of hate for us, so I don't see him trading his star player to us to just get whooped on by that same player for the next couple years. In fact, it's a cardinal rule of his per Bleacher Report article by Timothy Rapp that it's a cardinal rule of Pop's not to trade within the division. And if you guys remember back to when we traded for Paul Gasol, Pop had some harsh comments about the Lakers and that trade specifically. Let me see here. Let me quote exactly what he said. "What they did in Memphis is beyond comprehension. There should be a trade committee that can scratch all trades that make no sense. I just wish I had been on a trade committee that oversees NBA trades. I'd like to elect myself to that committee. I would have voted no to the LA trade." All right, end quote. That's Pop on the trade that got us Paul Gasol and sent off Marc Gasol to the Memphis Grizzlies. Which, if you look at it now, they kind of got the better end of that deal. I mean, we got some championships out of it, but they got the better player at the end of it. I mean, Marc Gasol, to me, turned out to be a better player than Paul. But on hearing that quote from Pop, my first reaction is he's a dick. Who had the audacity of him really pisses me off. Who in their right mind has the gall to say something like that, especially for a company like the NBA? Who the hell is Popovich to say a trade makes no sense when he's not involved in it? Trades go down between 2, maybe 3 teams, and that's all it involves, those 3 teams. So for him to be an ass and say there should be some kind of committee that oversees everything and whether they believe it makes sense or not should have the power to veto trades is complete bullshit. And says a lot about Pop, just the fact that he thinks that way. So to me, I don't think that trade's going to happen because of that thought process that he has, that mentality, especially because it's the Lakers and our history. He's not going to help us to get back on top. So I don't see it happen. But I'll play along and let's say it was a possibility. Let's say he is open to trade to us. Do we even really have a shot to get him? I don't know. I don't think we do. Look at it this way. What are we willing to give up to get Kawhi? What do you think of Kawhi? My take, Kawhi's a great two-way player. But for whatever reason, and maybe it's just me, I've never viewed him as the type of player to take over a game. I'm trying to remember back. I didn't have a chance to watch videos on his games in the playoffs or anything, but he just does not strike me as a player to take over a game. Now, maybe it's because his demeanor, he's so quiet, so soft-spoken, that I just don't see him as that type of leader that'll dominate a game and take over when it's crunch time. But, maybe I'm wrong. You guys tell me. Again, you can tell me on Twitter at Bay Podcast. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know what you think. Send me some clips or something. Maybe change my mind. I don't know. But I don't see Kawhi as that franchise player that you give the ball to when the game's on the line, like a Jordan, a Kobe, someone like that. Even a Dwayne Wade, I don't see him as that player. So seeing as that's how I view him, what would I be willing to give up to him for him? Well, realistically, if we're going to get him, it has to be Luol Deng has to be included in there somewhere because of the money. But we'd also either have to give up Josh Hart, which I don't want to do. I like Josh Hart. I think he's Derek Fisher 2.0. The dude averages like a double-double with rebounds, which, I mean, if we have him and Lonzo in the game, we have probably two of the best rebounding guards in the league, which does a lot for our defense and our offense, gets transition going. So would I be willing to part for him? I don't know. But it wouldn't be just him. You'd have to get rid of Hart and put together a package that has either Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo, either all three or two of the three. So who are you willing to part with? I don't want to part with anybody. I'm a big believer that right now the Lakers franchise is in the position that the Warriors were in a couple years ago when they had an option to trade Clay for Kevin Love to kind of boost their franchise and give it a jump start into that elite echelon. I think we're at that position where and the Warriors chose to stand pat. They didn't make that trade, which looking back was the right move. We're in that position right now where we can get Kawhi to jumpstart our franchise and how we're viewed, but I don't think it's really going to jumpstart us to get closer to a championship. I'm of the belief that we stay the way we are. If Kawhi is that unhappy, and supposedly there's rumors that he wants to play for the Lakers, if he's that unhappy in San Antonio and they end up trading him, Kawhi holds the leverage. So even if they trade him away, that doesn't really matter because if he doesn't want to resign at wherever they trade him to, he can let that be known. So if someone's willing to take a gamble on him, like let's say a Cleveland team, it's basically going to be a one-year rental if he really wants to be a Laker. He holds all the cards. If that's the case and he wants to be a Laker, I say wait him out. Why not keep our young core and then add him to the team? And we could probably sign Paul George this offseason and then add him to the mix. Now, the only issue with that would be is we're gonna be pretty wing heavy on our roster. We're gonna have Kawhi, Paul George, Kuzma, Ingram, and Randall if hopefully we resign him. But that's a lot of wings. But we can always kick Kuzma to the bench. I don't think Ingram would be good at the bench. I wouldn't really want him on the bench. I think he's going to be, along with Kawhi, probably one of the most dominant players we'd have on both ends of the court just because of his length. So I really would want to use him as much as possible. Kuzma is kind of, as much as I like him and I want to think of him as a Clay-type player, he's really just a trigger man off the bench. I mean, he's instant offense. To him, it'd probably suit him the best to come in with the second unit and just get the green light and gun away as much as he wants. That'd probably be the best for him. So that's if we wait him out. Now, if we trade for Kawhi, we have to give up youth, and I'm just dead set against it. I don't want to give up Lonzo, Kuzma, or Ingram. To me, those three are untouchable. I don't want to give up Hart, but he's not untouchable. But to me, I don't think that it's possible for us to make that trade unless we give up two of those three core players. On top of that, we still have that's assuming that we're the only player in the game, and we're not going to be. Boston and 70s and the 76ers are going to be after him too, along with a bunch of other teams, because who wouldn't go after Kawhi if he got the chance? But when it comes to assets, I don't think we could really compete with either of those teams because Boston can put together a package of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and picks, which those two right there, I mean, if you've been watching the playoffs, Jaylen Brown balling. So he's playing so well that they might not even want to go after Kawhi because of how well he's playing. But the fact that he is playing so well makes it more enticing if they want to dangle him in a package along with some picks and Jason Tatum or one or the other and some picks because they do have a lot of assets. And then you pair Gordon Hayward, Kyrie Irving, and Kawhi Leonard, you got a squad in the East. And the East is going to be softer with basically, even if LeBron's in the East or whatever he decides to do, the only competition for that type of squad would be the 76ers, who is another team that can go after Kawhi and also has more assets than we do. They have more draft picks than us, and they can put together a package that has Markelle Fultz, who they don't even, I mean, he's the number one pick, and they don't even really need him. They didn't use him. The squad was good without him, and he's just a luxury, basically. You can put Fultz together, Dario Saric or Covington and some picks, or, a mix up however you want to. But Fultz would probably be the core of that deal, and they would just build around him in order to get Kawhi. So then you'd have Kawhi, Ben Simmons, and Embiid. You basically got all-stars in every position and all pro players at every position. That would be a monster squad. And they have more enticing packages to give in order to get Kawhi. So the only hope for the Lakers in a trade would be that Kawhi says he doesn't want to play anywhere else, won't resign anywhere else. Then that gives the Lakers all the leverage, because we can lowball them. We can send a Luol Deng, Josh Hart, and maybe 1 or 2, 3 picks, whatever, to get him over. That would probably be the only way we can get him and keep the core intact. But honestly, it doesn't look like that'd be able to happen, and we'd have to give up somebody or 1 or 2 players from the core. So if he does want to be a Laker, just wait him out. I don't see why. We took the approach with Paul George. Paul George, we know, wants to be a Laker. We could have traded for him, but we didn't, and that was the right move. I think if that's the case with Kawhi Leonard, we do it again, because also he's coming off an injury, tendinopathy. There's 2 types, and I think he has the more severe one. So being in the medical field, I'm not a doctor, but I kind of know somewhat about it in regards to tendons. That injury he has can turn out to be pretty serious as far as recovery, because tendons are different from muscles in how they recover. Also, we know that he has a more serious one because he tried to come back and they had to put him on ice again. At least he didn't feel comfortable enough to keep playing, which started their whole saga of, is he faking, is he not? I'm tending to side with Kawhi Leonard, because playing sports, I know that I've had that same circumstance where I pulled a hamstring, and when you pull a hamstring and your doctor diagnoses it, the team kind of goes, okay, this is your return time, 2 to 4 weeks, whatever it's going to be. They just assume, okay, that's when you're going to be back. They might even add 2-3 weeks, just okay, long estimate. Anything other than that, they have a hard time believing you, because people tend to believe doctors in sports over the players. And in this situation, I believe Kawhi because of the injury that he has. Because the things with tendons is when a muscle breaks or ruptures, or you have an injury, red blood cells start the clotting, and there's better healing when it comes to muscles. Tendons aren't like that. Tendons, like I'll give you an example. I had DeQuerre veins in my wrist. It's a tendon issue where it just hurts like hell when you bend let's say you put your thumb in your fist and you bend your hand forward. Hurts like hell. It's kind of like carpal tunnel. Well, the difference if with that injury as opposed to something like, let's say, my forearm or bicep, the tendon doesn't have a lot of blood circulating it, so the healing process is slow, because tendons just don't carry blood cells like muscles and blood do. They don't have them. You need that for the healing. So in order for me to get over my DeQuerre veins, and to get the inflammation down, I had to get a steroid shot right in my wrist. So a cortisone shot to help with the inflammation. That was the only way I was able to get over it. I tried therapy for months. I tried all these kinds of different things, exercise. It didn't matter. It wasn't until I got that shot that it helped with the inflammation. Now that doesn't mean the tendon's better, because I've had instances where it flares up. Same with my ligaments on my knees. I hyperextended my knee, and I did the whole rehab, and they've just never been the same. Now, the tendon, ligaments, they're pretty much the same. They just attach different parts of the body. So but recovery, it's pretty much the same. So whether it's tendon, ligament, or ligament, the recovery is pretty much the same. So like when I hyperextended my knee, my MCL and my PCL, they just never been the same. Now with Kawhi's being in the tendons in his thigh, who knows if he ever gets back to what he was, because he has the more severe of the 2 injuries. Now, with that said, why not wait him out a year? Let him play in San Antonio or wherever he goes, wherever they trade him to, and see how he does for a year. Let's not risk a roster spot and all the money we'd have to pay him. Let somebody else take that gamble. Let somebody else trade a bunch of assets to San Antonio to see how he does, while we watch in the shadows, see how he does. And if he really wants to be a Laker, he plays well, and we wait him out, we sign him in the offseason. Keep our young core, build a championship roster, and move forward that way. That's my opinion on the matter. That's what I would do with Kawhi. I mean, I'm good if we don't add anybody this offseason. I like our core. If we add maybe a Paul George, fine. He's not a must-have, especially after seeing how he bombed out in the playoffs or how he's doing so as of now. I don't think he's someone we have to add, but he'd be a nice addition to have. Kawhi, if we can get him, only if the circumstances are right, because we can't have another Dwight Howard situation where we mortgage the future to try to get this one star player to bring us back to prominence, and we end up shitting the bed and setting ourselves back 5 years. So that's my opinion on the Kawhi matter. Let's see.